Welcome to episode 20 of We Have Issues. I'm Anthony.
I'm Steven.
Yeah, and every week, Steven and I get together and we do our best to elbow drop the evil elements that stand in our path of making something interesting in the world. This time we're making a semi-autobiographical time travel graphic novel musical, and it's going pretty well so far. We've had, we have issues sometimes. Some weeks we don't get our stuff done, some weeks we do. We've been pretty ambitious lately. How'd you do this week?
So I got 2 pages. Well, I got a page, but by the time you edit this and everything, you'll have both. So here's 2. You can also edit failure into this one if I happen to fail, but I won't. But here's 2. But the main thing that I got done on the first page I did, which is page 9. Page 9.
Wow, awesome.
Page 9. So page 9 is the first page that would have the record skipping.
Okay, cool.
Because he fails. Yeah. He says the thing in the previous page, and what I decided to do is, at least for now, is just redraw. Okay, so what happened was page 8, I drew the proposal, the kneeling down as like almost a big portion of the page.
Right.
So I basically just did that again, but what I did was the panel before it, I have like when he met, so it's like page 1, she like reaches his hand out, or panel 2, the record is bouncing. And then panel 3, he's looking back and saying, "Oh no." And I have his face melting into the bottom picture again. Cool. So it's basically
I like that.
I'm gonna that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna have his character morphing into his other character reverting. So that way I think I'm still gonna draw all the panels, is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah. What Steven's referring to is, in the story, the character jumps back in time, and when he changes something and does something that didn't actually happen along his real timeline, the song that he's listening to skips back and throws him back into the timeline, so he has to relive the thing again until he figures out the right way to do it. So Steven has to redraw the same elements a few times, but he's finding the best ways possible to do it. And I really like that idea of ripping him back and showing that. Because that was something that we've both been a little concerned about how we're going to, demonstrate, or just how we're going to explain to the reader that that's exactly what's happening with, and make it fun, and not just constantly.
I also just didn't want to be lazy. I mean, it'd be awesome to be lazy. I could probably just paste and people would get the idea, but I think it's cooler to have the effect and then just have the reader. I think about, I remember when I recorded music with this guy one time, and he basically told me, he's like, "All right, we're gonna record the chorus again." I'm like, "Well, you can just copy and paste." And he's like, "No," and he pointed out that even albums and stuff, they don't really just copy and paste sections. Right. Every chorus is different. You just don't hear the interest, the subtle differences. So it's the same thing with the panels. I feel like every panel is going to look very, very similar that repeats, but I want it to have the element of it's a new piece of art.
No, I love it. I think, and not to mention, the fact that you're making the pages as a singular piece of art every time is just going to look fantastic, and it's beautiful overall. So it's great that you showed us that one page, and the failure that you're going to show us at the other page.
Oh no, it's gonna be blues anyway. So I got this, man. Blues. I'm getting really quick at them, so it's getting good.
Oh, so I basically failed this week. I got a lot of writing done.
Birthday week.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll tell you what happened. My issue that happened this week was, it was supposed to be my birthday week. My parents went away, so I was gonna have the house to myself. My son's mom ended up asking me to pick up my son early, so she only had him for 1 day instead of the 2 days.
Really?
Yeah, I know. So I picked him up around. I still picked him up a little bit late, to her credit. It was around 8:00 at night. I picked him up, but that's usually my time when I write. So I had to drive all the way to go pick him up. Drive him home, and then of course take care of him. And it really cut into a lot of the time that I was planning on writing. And aside from that, Steve and I had an ordeal. Okay, so how do I talk about this? Steven, on my birthday, I was going to write. My plan was, I was going to stay home. I got some beers. I was going to eat some tater tots, drink some beer. I was going to write. That was my birthday plan. I was like, I got this. I'm going to finish this book on my birthday. It's going to be fantastic. Steven, let me tell you what happened. Do you recall recently on our podcast, we talked about how there perhaps might be a ghost in my house?
No way.
Okay. So I'm watching my parents' dog. Okay, I'm watching my parents' dog. So I go in the room. I go in the living room where he stays, and I put on dog TV for him. And I'm just I pet him. I leave the room. I'm gone for a few minutes. I come back to check on him, and my parents' door is open. Okay, I knew for a fact my parents' door was closed. I was like, I know it was closed. How'd this door get open? I know I didn't open it. I have no reason to go in that room. So I look at the door. I look at the dog. I close the door. I push it. I'm like, how? It's not like one of those flip handles where like you can push that. It's a normal doorknob, like the dog doesn't have opposable thumbs. So I'm like, if anything, he has to push. So I'm pushing. Door's not budging, right? So I'm like, okay. First, like, I'm gonna attribute this to like a failure of memory on my part and just be like, maybe the door was open and I just never noticed it. Like, whatever, not a big deal.
Possibility. It's a possibility, right?
It's possible. Like, I was, when you're really confident, but you're like, you know what? There's no evidence here. I'm gonna give everyone the benefit of the doubt and just, instead of jumping the ghost conclusions, I'm gonna say the door was probably already slightly ajar and I just didn't notice, right? I close the door and I push on it. Nothing. Keep it closed. I go, okay. I walk away. So I walk away and I'm gone a little while. I come back to check on the dog and the door is open again. The door is wide open. Now here's the thing. I look down and I see that there are like shreds of paper. So I was like, okay, the dog got in the room. He was in there. But how did the
He didn't open it? Is it around the door?
It's around the door.
So it's not like the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park. He's not pushing it down.
Exactly. He couldn't like nose it up or down and like, no. So, okay, Steven. So in this, now mind you, okay, this is my time. My son like went to bed. I was like, I'm going to write. But now there's a dilemma. I'm a ghost bus. I'm a ghostbuster now, Steven. On my birthday, I'm going to solve the mystery of the opening door, so I have to solve this mystery. I'm freaking out, okay? And this is what happens to me. It occurs to me that my parents have a camera that faces that living room.
Oh.
They have a camera that faces the living room, Steven! So I was like, they wanted to watch the dog. So I was like, oh my God, I have evidence. I can do this. So I text I start texting my parents. They're not answering. They're having fun, doing whatever they're
having
doing.
A blast without you on your birthday. Continue.
Exactly. So I try to interrupt their birthday party that they're having without me. And I call my mom. And I was like, Mom, the only thing I want for my birthday is for you to look at the camera on this thing. For you to look at the footage of this camera and tell me how this door opens. And my mom's like, oh, I can't do it while I'm on the phone with you. I'll let you know. Okay, so she hangs up the phone. 15 minutes go by. I'm staring at my phone. I was doing nothing else, Steven. I was not writing. I wasn't flipping through Twitter. I was doing nothing. I wrote one thing on Twitter, and it was something's weird in my house. More later, because I didn't know what to say. Right? So I'm freaking out. I'm staring at my phone. Finally, I'm just like, I get mad, and I just like set my phone down. I'm just like, I can't. They're not answering. Finally, my phone buzzes. I couldn't pick up my phone. I pick up my phone, and I'm in such a hurry that I drop it, and I completely crack the bottom screen.
Oh, no.
It flew across the room, like 20 feet. Just, like, one of those impossible...
I want to see the camera get that, is what I want to see.
That's what I was like. I was so mad, because I was like, I want to see how that happened, because that felt ghostly. Like, it was like, it flew out of my hand, and it went so far. Anyway, I've never dropped my phone. If I had $1 for every time, like, I'd have $1, because I just dropped my phone for the first time. Like, it's crazy. Dude, so I get my phone, I'm mad that it's cracked, but I'm like, oh my God, my mom's texting me. So she's like, hold on, I'm gonna get the footage for you. So I'm like, yes! Okay, so I'm texting her on my new broken screen. I'm like, Mom, I need to see this footage. I need to know what's happening. Can you watch it? Can you just tell me what happens? So she goes, hold on. My dad texts me, and he says, my dad texts me separately, and he goes, you see it just open. That's what he said.
Dang.
So I'm like, okay. I was like, Dad, can you send me the video of it? Right? He gives me nothing. So I'm texting my mom. My mom finally texts me back and she's like, she's like, I don't know how to do this, which is like, of course you don't know how to do this. Of course you have a camera and you don't know how to get the footage and give someone else the footage, which is the only thing you're supposed to do with those kind of cameras. You know, it's like the important thing to do with the camera is be able to take the footage and show people. And you're like,
I don't got that part.
I don't have that ability.
I have the camera. I have the phone that I can watch it. That's about the end. That's where I stop.
Okay. So I'm just like, okay, just tell me what happened. Was the dog near it? And my mom's like, the door just opens. So I'm like, okay, I'm super incredulous, right? So I walk over to the door. And I'm pushing on the door. I'm like, how? How did this happen? Finally, and now mind you, I'm waiting for my mom to send me a text, right? Finally, this is what happens. I'm pushing it as hard as I can, dude. I put my foot on the bottom of the door and I push right on the corner of the door on the bottom. I push hard and the door goes boop and pops open. So immediately I'm like, are my parents messing with me right now? Now my parents have never messed with me. Like they've never tried to pull any kind of pranks on me. Now here's the thing. One time, and I've told this story in the podcast, my mom mistook a dog for a human penis, for a dog. My parents can't see. My parents can't see anything. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say that the dog is probably in the footage and they probably didn't see him. That's my guess. But I'm guessing
maybe he's popping that door open.
Yes. What I'm guessing is the dog is laying there, and he's a big dog. We have a Rottweiler.
And they're big dummies. They're just big old clumsy boys.
They are. And like my guess is that he's laying there on the floor, and I bet his big butt, because his butt pushes against doors and you just hear like I'm guessing he just like stretches a little and the door opens and you can't really see him. I'm guessing. That's my guess. I don't know for sure. I really don't believe it's a ghost. My parents are going to come home tomorrow and they're going to give me the footage and I'm going to see it and I'm going to know beyond a shadow of a doubt what happened. I'm going to see it and I'm going to post it on here because I can figure out how to do that.
Oh, that's going to be so awesome.
Yeah. So, okay. So my guess, and I'm just going to say right now, my guess is that the dog is in the shot. My parents are too blind to see it. And he pushed on the bottom of the door somehow. But according to my parents, it's a ghost. It's not a ghost. I know it's not a ghost. I want
well, see, the thing is, you didn't see the ponytail thing happen, so they very well could have been exaggerating the ponytail.
Yeah, they could have. I mean, for all I know, my dad could have been like yawning and swiped my mom's hair and didn't realize it because that's their. I don't know. But according to them, there's a ghost in the house. They both experience things separately. And they both, I think there's a dog in this picture. I don't want, the whole point.
What if the dog runs the other way and you don't see him at all?
See, that'd be amazing. But what happened to me, the reason that I'm telling you a story because it's just funny that this happened, but imagine this was my birthday. I thought on my birthday, I was going to get evidence of ghosts. I was like, for my birthday, my whole family has a party elsewhere, hanging out on the beach and stuff. All I want is this ghost to be real in my house now.
Can we please start a dude bro-esque ghost hunter show like Ghost Hunters? Dude, have you ever seen like how ridiculous that show could be at times? It's so great though.
Oh, it's bad. It's
just touch my ass. It's like
dude, those shows are ridiculous. I want to love them, but it's funny that you can have like 13 seasons of something and have.
I think it's because people like us, anyway. Like for me, like I can enjoy a show like that because I can suspend like I can be irrational basically and just pretend that what they're going through is real, and it makes the whole situation fun. You know,
of course, it's so much fun. I mean, and you want it to be real. You were like, we're a bunch of molded.
Dude, nothing gets me more than some deep synth notes and some ominous voice explaining to me how he encountered aliens. Like nothing gets me going more. It gets the people going. Little did John know. Like, oh man, you got me. You have me.
Dude, I want to see a UFO so bad. Like I have
My mom's got a lot of stories, but once again, I'm not sure because my mom lived in. This is supposed to be about the ghost of Christmas present. We're over here talking about ghosts and aliens, but anyways, my mom lived in a lot of places. So she lived in Union City, Pennsylvania. Was it Pennsylvania? It's either Pennsylvania, Jamestown, New York, Union City, Pennsylvania. It's like we're in Florida, but this is like the real South. I don't even know how to explain it. Like my mom's like side of the family is like crazy out in the country. So she had like ghost stories from that and a lot of cool ghost stories. But then like UFO wise, she lived in Pennsylvania and in Texas. And I guess when she lived in Texas, she saw like a lot of crazy stuff. She saw like a V-shaped craft. She saw like yeah, dude, like supposedly. One of her crazier stories about UFOs though is she and I believe I can't remember the story. It was either her cousin or her roommates at the time were driving in a car and they were going up a hill and this bright flash happened, right?
What?
And this dog ran out of the flash, like it looked like it was covered in mange, like it was like either burned from the flash or like a mange dog.
Close Encounters, but
yeah. Maybe oh my god, did she tell me this is the story to Close Encounters?
Maybe she was just telling you the plot of Close Encounters.
Let me tell you the rest of the story, and then you can tell me, and then I'm about to have a mental breakdown.
So she was having mashed potatoes, and she made a volcano out of them and said, "This means something."
Oh my god. No. So anyway, this dog, bright flash, this dog. The next day, like this agent comes and says that they need to come in for questioning. Blah blah. Like the police station. Is this? Please don't tell me this is like Close Encounters.
No, but it's like it's like Men in Black story.
Okay, okay. But yeah, but this is before Men. This is like when I remember her telling me this when I was little. And the thing about my mom is she's told the same story. So either she's really good at just like memorizing the lie and just reciting the lie like a play, which is possible. People do that. I'm not giving her the benefit of the doubt. But anyways, so they get investigated, right? And this guy like asked him a bunch of questions. What'd you see? What'd you see? Like blah blah blah. They told him the light. They told him this and that. And he introduced himself as I'm just gonna say Agent Smith. I forget what the actual name was. Oh my god, is it Matrix? No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, so that guy leaves, and then another guy comes in, and it's like actual guy from the police station, and introduces himself as the same guy. Like we just talked to him. Blah 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 blah. And then he's like. Yeah, so basically, something they weren't supposed to. A higher official came in, posing as one of these lower officials to get the information to see if everything's gravy, if they saw more than they should have. Found out if they didn't, left, sent the real police officer, and the real police officer came in, and then my mom. Yeah, so that's one of her stories, but she has quite a few actually. I don't know how we got on the topic of UFOs, but we should shift.
Speaking of ghosts. Speaking of aliens and ghosts, this is supposed to be our Ghost of Comic Book Present episode. We're going to be talking about the podcast and what we're trying to do with the podcast, what we've been doing with the podcast. It's interesting, Steven, to try to talk about. It's interesting.
What's happening?
You can't talk about.
It's like Spaceballs.
Present because
when's now. Right now.
This is now. Steven, if we were the ghost, the only way to really talk about the present is to try to be like, okay, the hypotheticals of, okay, Steven, what would you be doing if you weren't doing the podcast with me?
Ooh.
Like if we
we're probably living our best present, right? Like Scrooge wasn't living his best present. Scrooge was being shown the things he could be living right now if he was doing well.
Yes.
So man.
So we have to It's a Wonderful Life it and say like, Steven, what would you be doing if we never started this podcast? Would you get back into drawing the way you have been, or would you?
Absolutely not. I probably wouldn't be. In fact, like that was a muscle that like was not used. And like when I was drawing the first page, second page, like it was like getting back into form basically.
Yeah.
It was like I was like out of practice.
It's crazy, right?
It does.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's the same way with like any creative endeavor. Like it really is like a use it or lose it situation, to an extent. It's like there is some muscle memory, of course, like your basic shapes, but it does feel like you kind of slip down a notch and you have to like, escalate once again and like, re-evolve or, learn those patterns again, or those methods. It's really tough. I worry about that stuff with drawing, with writing, and just like finding that flow again. So had we not done the podcast,
we might be pushing more music probably because we were kind of doing the music thing for a bit, but we just felt like we didn't. because for us, it always feels like we might as well package it just like we've always wanted to. You know, we always want it to be this one, and we want to be prestige worldwide. Okay, we want it to be one multimedia conglomerate. No, but like basically,
Ostrich comic.
Comics. But like, we like the music felt like hollow without the imagery behind it. You know, we wanted that. You know, we wanted a comic.
Yeah. Well, and you know, not to mention, like we said recently, we were doing the music pretty heavily for a while, and then we just stopped once the pandemic stopped. Or started. You know, once the pandemic came around, and you know, it became awkward to try to meet in person, and we definitely weren't trying to play music like virtually. We still could share things and write together to an extent. Like that's kind of how we made our last song, really. Like I recorded a demo and sent it to you, and you helped, you know, and kind of like fleshed it out a bit and such. But we weren't really doing that as much. We were just kind of talking in the chat, like you and I. So I don't know if we would have done music, or do you think we'd still be as good of friends if we you know, like, cause
this has definitely kept it alive for sure. Like,
cause I mean, obviously I love you and I love talking to you and hanging out. I wish we were hanging out more. But you know, we're only allowed every 18 episodes. That's when the people let us.
and you and I are no strangers to basically just, Anthony and I have done this multiple times to our friendships where we'll just fall off the face of the earth for one another. And then like literally like months later just go boop, and just like pop back together. And then just it's weird with like no like string.
No, it is pretty funny.
No, nothing
like Lego pieces just falling, connecting, and
never forgot. Yeah, it never melted away or anything.
It is. You know what it reminds me of? Like it reminds me very much of high school, when I remember, especially with Mike in high school, because he was like my first high school friend when I moved here. But I remember we would be walking together before class, and we'd be like, you know, blah blah blah, talking about something. We'd both have to go into class, but as soon as class was over, we'd just converge again, and it was like as if the conversation never stopped. It was just like a brief skip in the CD or something.
All right, bro, 1 second. So anyways,
it was always like that, and that's kind of how our relationship has always been. You know, it's just kind of, we fall right back into those old patterns, but in the best way possible, you know. So, and I think that the podcast has really helped that, and it's, you know, it stops us from hanging out in person, which is kind of sucks.
Yeah, because it feeds that. It's like when it's like you don't have enough food, but it's enough for the hunger to not like drive you mad is what it is. So that's what the podcast has done. Like, because like there is something wrong with our little reptile brains where we can't. It's like, I see Anthony, I talk Anthony, I see Anthony, I hang out with Anthony. That's what happened. It's like my memory just like feeds that as if that's a truth. My dumb brain doesn't understand.
No, I guess it's like anything else. Like, you know, our brains can't tell the difference between like, you know, like a movie where like, oh no, a spider, and like seeing a real spider, you know, like those kind of, you know, like, oh crap.
It's probably like horror movies are so like unnerving, is it's like, hey man, remember that time there was like a guy chasing you with a machete? I'm like, that wasn't real, brain. And you're like, oh yeah. That's like, these aren't real memories that you're having, brain.
So as far as the Ghosted Christmas Present, we've been doing the podcast. It's going really well. You've been improving on the pages. Now you're doing even more pages. I'm very close to finishing I really just have to tie up the end with like a nice bow. That's all. You know, I got distracted the last couple of days. I got distracted because of the ghost situation and, you know, a few other parental issues. But we've been doing really well, and I'm very, very close to just tying this thing up with like a nice little bow and being done with it. And then
which is probably good for your spirit, honestly. It's it's going
to be so good. Like every time I always think of it as literal time travel. Like every time I have to go back and write this stuff, I do actually do my best to put myself in those positions again, which is the worst thing I could possibly do.
Isn't it weird how memories work like that? Because like for me, even like we both have our fair share of memories we don't want to visit, and like some days like that, it's weird how those memories will cross your mind, and some days it's like it's nothing. It doesn't strike a nerve. It doesn't. And some days it just hits just the right way, and you just remember something, and your heart is like, this sucks. I have nowhere to put this for no reason. Yeah, like I couldn't imagine choosing that. Like you waking up choosing that moment.
You know, for the most part, it's just like exploring the memories intentionally is a little easier than when it just hits you in nature. You know, like if I'm driving and I'm listening to the radio, which I almost never do. So if I am, and then a specific couple of songs come on, they'll hit me because they will literally just throw me into the past the worst way possible. Like, okay, I'll tell you, I'll just like, here's a real specific, a specific example of a song in a real moment that I had to live in my life that was really weird. You know the song Faithfully by Journey?
Oh yeah.
You know?
I will run. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know the part that says like, I'm forever yours faithfully. Okay. So like, just imagine for a second that you're in a relationship with someone named Anthony. Okay. So, and your name also rhymes with faithfully. So the two of you in the song say like, or in the car together, and you're driving, having for several years randomly come upon this song, and whenever it came on, it would be a funny moment where you both say one another's name at the same time. However, there was one moment specifically where toward the end of the relationship, at the very end, where I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do about it, and we were still technically together. We were on our way to go see my parents, and I had to just wear this mask of comfort, you know, where I was just like acting like everything was fine. But anyway, we're in the car, we're driving to the Fort Myers beach, and we're going to see my parents. And as we're driving there, the song comes on, and that part comes on, the almost beginning of the song. And I just kind of like start saying it, and I look over, and she's just like stone face looking forward and driving, like intentionally not saying it. One of those things. And I was just
like knowing what's happening in this moment, doesn't want to even throw anything. Just just going to be stoic.
Yep. Like could have easily changed that song. It would have been great. It's like, you know, if you would have just done a little bit of consideration, if you were just like,
you know, and all of this would have been if I have brought to my
attention
yesterday. But no, that's horrible.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you change the channel before the brand breaks up. No. So, but yeah, so anyway, so that happened. And when so now when I hear that, if that song comes on, it's kind of like one of those moments where I'm like, can I do it? Can I sing this song yet? And the answer
is, what you need to do, you need to sing I'm Forever Yours, Stevie T. And that's what you're going to say from now on.
Stevie T.
Stevie T. Not Stevie B, the awesome R&B singer from the early 90s, late 80s. Spring Love is still my jam, but Stevie T.
So, I mean, now I will.
I gave you a new memory. You're welcome.
Thank you. Saved. It is interesting, like, with those things, though, as far as, like, memories that are kind of just destroyed for you after a bad breakup and that sort of thing. For the most, it's funny that you will lose. I mean, I did lose some songs. Like there are some things that are just not recoverable. I can't. They are unsalvageable.
I'm not going to visit there. Yeah,
I'm not like. Well, it's like I won't. Not only like I won't revisit it, but it's like it was so ingrained in the relationship that it came of the relationship. You know what I mean? Like there are things that were mine that happened during the relationship and things that were mine that happened before the relationship. But there were some things that only happened because of the relationship. And so it was like, I'm not going to visit those bands. I'm not going to sit there and, you know, like sing those songs because we sang them together. It was this whole thing. So those things are dead to me.
That's so funny. Cause like I have the inverse of that. So like, because Tina and I only, you know, we had that breakup. It was like 4 months long. It was agony, but 4 months long. And like, one of the I started listening to this band called Tides of Man during that era, and this is when Tillian was still singing for him, and I like listened to their two albums, and it was just like speaking to my soul at that time. Like they had this song called Not My Love, and like the lyrics in it are just so like, it was just, you know, like someone that's going through it and he's getting through it. And now I can still listen to those songs sometimes, but like I usually don't, because it literally transports me to the mood I was in when I was listening to them. It's so weird because like that's how I met them. I met Tides of Man in my darkest point. So now it pulls me to my darkest point.
Yeah.
But like, it's weird, like how bands like Brand New, like I listened to Deja Intendo like crazy during it too. But I feel like I already had my memories with that album before I went into the breakup. So, and since we're back together now, there's nothing to sour there because we're back together. So it's not like it's weird. It's like an inverse because of the band I discovered during our separate. It's just weird. That's funny how that works.
But yeah, it's funny how we attribute certain things and like associate certain things with certain memories and how they, you know, build based on certain specific things in the relationship. It's hard, you know. But really, I can only think of 2 songs that still, like, you know, the Faithfully song, and there's one other song that triggers something in my brain where it's just like, this is an unacceptable experience that you're putting yourself through and you need to change it, because it's just like, I used to, because, you know, obviously, you know, I played music. So we used to sing together all the time. And toward the end of the relationship, like right on the cusp where I started being suspicious that something was going on, she wanted to sing that song, We Belong. Do you know that song, is it
Forever we deny your embrace.
Yes.
For worse or for better.
Yes. And that song, although like some of the chorus sounds hopeful and stuff, the whole point is basically she's getting ready to break up with the guy. And she's, you know, so Voldemort wanted me to play that song with her. And as I was singing the lyrics with her, I would, you know, I just kind of stopped. I was like, I don't want to do this. You know, like I don't want to sing these words with you. It feels wrong. Like it feels like we're poisoning whatever this is, you know? So I felt really bad. And then of course, you know, she's like, it's just a song, and it is a good song. It's a great song if you listen to it. But as someone who's concerned about their relationship, hearing those words being sung by a person who they're concerned over is very, you know, disconcerting. Like, you know, it was kind of like breaking my dang heart. So I was just like, okay, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm just kind of going through it to try to make her happy, which was just having the, you know, worst effect, you know. So anyway, so that song, when I've heard that, I still like, if I put on the radio and it's on, I take it as like a challenge from the universe where I'm like, am I ready? Can I do this? And the answer is usually like,
I just imagine you as Stan's dad. I didn't hear no bell.
That's exactly what it is. Like I will wipe my eye. And I'm like, I'm going through this. It's fine, you know, because I'm
gonna plant the flag of Anthony into this thing. I'm gonna take it back for the
that's exactly. And it's funny because I don't have to do that. I could just be like just throw that behind me and just be like, you know, get the behind me random song that makes me sad, you know, but I like the challenge. It's kind of interesting, and it helps me understand like where my thresholds are, you know, like where like certain scars are still, you know, or like certain scabs are still, you know, weak, or, you know, not as solid as I'd probably like. But for the most part, visiting the actual memories for the comic book isn't that, like, it isn't the same. It's not as bad, like, you know, because I can
you're choosing, you're basically like navigating back. And
yeah, so, you know, and the fact that I'm choosing specific things, and some of them are awful, of course, but there's still it's not something that's being like it's not just being suddenly shot into me. It's something that I'm putting myself through. It's kind of like I can dip my toe in the water a bit and walk around, you know, like I'm not being pushed in the deep end of a memory on accident, you know, so it's a little different. And it's, you know, so I can also disengage, which is probably why I end up failing some weeks, honestly, because I start getting into it and then I'm like, okay, I'm getting sad now and I probably shouldn't, and we should get out of this. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know, but it's good. It's going pretty well. The last thing I wrote, I ended up referencing, I was going to ask you about this, actually. I didn't send it to you yet, but I ended up referencing the junkyard lady from Labyrinth in the narration. Because I was like, basically, I make like a comment where I say, like, part of me wants to just take all of it and like, or basically suck up the ash and dust in a vacuum and strap it on my back like the junkyard lady from Labyrinth and just wear it for the rest of my life. And I like what I wrote and like the way I wrote it. But I like, what do you think? Is that okay to reference? I know legally it's fine. I'm just asking you as like a reader. Do you think it's like it'll date us too much, or it'll confuse people who haven't seen Labyrinth? Does it matter? You know, like it's only one line. But I also hate to just be like, well, if you don't know Labyrinth, you're not going to get this little, you know, nugget.
maybe you just leave it like. Maybe you don't mention that it's from Labyrinth. You just like describe the character to a T, and people that have seen Labyrinth will get the joke, and people that haven't will still understand the imagery behind it.
Yeah, that's what that's why I asked, because it was like for the most part, I don't reference things in my writing that much, I do in dialogue, but not in like narration or in any way that's going to be like meaningful or important for like the story as a whole. And I wouldn't want to lose anyone. Or I wouldn't want that moment lost on anyone who hasn't seen Labyrinth. Although, watch Labyrinth. What's wrong with you? It's so good. It's such a good movie. It's so cool. It's a weird movie, though. As far as the ghost of comic book present is concerned, obviously we can't just right now talk about what we're doing, because here we are doing a podcast, and that's the best thing we could possibly do. However, we can talk about why we're doing this, what it does for us, and what we could improve. I think that's probably the best way to use this, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think have been some of our greatest achievements as far as this podcast is concerned?
Spending over an hour and a half together each week.
Agreed. Yeah, it's true.
Everyone, you see 30 to 45 minutes, but Anthony and I usually talk for almost 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of edited footage because we are just cursing like sailors in that footage. We are just swearing up a storm. I promise. You think we're clean? We are not clean. We are
a couple of doinks over here. Just doinks, just danging with all of our swear words.
I was hoping if we lied, they would believe that we're actually a little hardcore. But the spending the extra time with you is great.
Mm-hmm.
Drawing again is amazing. I don't think I'd be drawing at least as much. And I would like to say that I'd be playing more music or something, but we all know I'd just be playing more video games. So thank you for that.
What have been some of your favorite? What have your favorite moments been of the podcast so far?
Ooh, favorite moments.
As far as just not even thinking about like productivity, just
things that have come up,
things that have come up in the podcast that moments that we'd like to visit a little.
Well, man, I really didn't think the ostrich thing was going to be because it's literally something I see not daily, but I see these ostriches probably twice a week because one of the places that I work in, they have a farm and there's 2 ostriches on the farm. And that's where my fascination started. And I started Googling because we have a lot of drive time. And then just the discussion that ultimately led to me mounting 2 beasts and 2 warbirds into battle. And this whole weird inside joke that for the handful of fans that have been around since episode, what was it? 4 or 5 or 6 maybe? Mm-hmm. They know that joke still, and we're still at Ostrich Colony Comics and all these little jokes that came from it. That's a good one.
Yeah, that was pretty great. Yeah, I love all of the inside jokes. I love that right now I'm wearing a shirt that has Jean-Claude Van Damme on it. That's an accent.
Quasimodo was good too.
There have just been so many little moments while doing this podcast that have just I still think about randomly, and I love that. I love that we can do this and have a conversation, and it's just always going to be on YouTube as long as YouTube exists. But I have so many fun memories of this podcast and just what we've been doing. I love all the pages. I wouldn't have written this. I wouldn't have written the story of the breakup and how I felt. So I probably wouldn't have worked through a lot of the emotions that I've been working through doing it. I probably would have just dug them deep and just put them deep in a hole. Just dug a hole.
Bottle it up and never bring it up again.
Never bring it up again. That's
it. Hurts.
Put them deep in there. I put some cement over it. I put a grave, a big tombstone over it, and just pretend that it wasn't a zombie underneath the earth, hoping to escape one day. So what do you think we should talk about as far as the present?
Yeah, man, I feel present-wise, I feel if we're community and there's the darkest timeline, I think we're maybe we're the timeline closest to the best timeline when it comes to the podcast. Obviously, the best timeline would be that someone just heard our idea, saw one drawing, and just sold. They're here you go. Here's a check for $2,000 million. It's not even a real number, Steven. I turned into a 3-year-old for a second there. 2,000 million. Wow, jeepers, mister. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we're living in one of the better timelines. So sorry. That was really
talking about specifically on our podcast.
That was really insensitive of me.
Elsewhere, We don't talk about that on the podcast. It's like rule number one.
Dude, this is like, it just shows you how separated from that reality we
get.
It's
true. It's true. Like, we intentionally compartmentalize the reality of this podcast. Yeah, but we did that. I offered that to you in episode 1, where I said we shouldn't talk about any kind of social issue or anything that's happening outside of what our intention is, and it's only because it's inescapable. It's inescapable these days. And I think that it's nice to have like a little vacation from it, for us and for people listening, so if you hear us, I don't look at it as insensitive. I think that our intention is we're going to only be talking about this thing, and they know that, hopefully. Or
so anyways, here's a 50-minute rap about how COVID sucks.
So how do you think we make the leap to greatest timeline, aside from finding someone who's simply going to give us all of their money? What do you think we can do to improve the podcast that we haven't already done or implemented?
I think podcast-wise, I mean, it would be fun to add more like skits, maybe, and things like that in between. But like, I feel like with what we're utilizing it for, and like what we're trying to do, the level that we have it at is probably the best we can be without. Basically, if we switch the next tier, the next tier to really bring the quality up on the show would be to film it with actual, nice cameras, as opposed to utilizing this amazing technology of Zoom, and then mic it into programs that are actually processing the vocals well.
Right.
And then that would just be like hours of extra editing for absolutely no reason.
What about as far as the comic? Do you think that there's anything that we can do that we haven't done?
Besides like speed, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like this comic's going to be a good
speed? Like the drugs? Yes. All right, guys, this is what we're going to do. We're doing time to do
this. It's time to bust out the crank, as I'm sure our parents called it. But no, like the speed in which it's happening. But like, I feel like this is going to be like a good, solid practice run, like for like both of us. Right. I mean, it stands on its own. I mean, I'm not saying that this is unable to be a thing, but it'll open the doorways for the other things that we've wanted to visit, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So I'll tell you, as far as the present and the things that what is something that you're presently doing that you think is kind of keeping us back a little? Like, what do you think that you're presently doing that isn't as good as that you could? Like, are you gaming a little too much? Are you?
I mean, gaming is probably it is essentially my crack cocaine. But like I'm like one of those I'm like a high functioning gamer, I guess.
Oh, Steven, I can't enable your addiction. No, I know what you mean. I get it. Whatever works for you and Tina.
But yeah, I mean, like, because the truth is, if I gamed a lot less, a lot more would be done. Right. So like, it's just finding that healthier. I need to be better at that. But like, also like, just the practice alone is going to make it easier as time progresses. Yeah. So like, I just got to keep with it, and as long as I'm making progress is being made. That's what you can't like defeat yourself. Like, you can't beat yourself up. You want to improve. You want to be better. You want to not do the things that
you also want to justify all of your bad trades. Constantly.
I need this. Okay, I need this reassurance. High functioning over here, right? Is how we
I know. Okay, I'll say like my crack cocaine is totally just like that, needing to fill the void of the attention of like being in a relationship or something, where I'm just like, because I miss that sometimes. So then what ends up happening is like Twitter becomes my girlfriend, where I'll just like keep feeling like, oh, are you there? You gonna love me? Someone loved me, And then like the worst thing that I do, my version of gaming is when I'm like, maybe I can kind of like cast out the net of dating and hope something, like I meet someone and that'll happen. So then I'll download the dating apps for a night or 2 nights or whatever, and then have some weird, have some kind of weird experiences on there, like talking to people, and kind of sometimes it satiates it just enough, like that kind of like how our conversation kind of like satiates the friendship.
The brain is tricked.
Yeah, you trick your brain into thinking like, oh, someone likes me. That's enough attention, and then I can go and do something with my life. Recently, I downloaded a dating app, and I ended up matching with someone, right? So I matched with this girl. I had actually spoken to her a while ago, so we kind of already knew each other, and we knew that like we had some things in common. But we never got a chance to meet. It just kind of like fizzled the first time. So we were like, all right, take 2. Like, let's talk, you know? She seemed really cool. She played drums. She likes similar music as us, you know? She likes similar movies. She just seemed cool all around. So it was like, okay, let's just talk, you know? So we're having good conversation. Everything's great. Few days go by, you know? And it's like, we're living in an era of a pandemic. So I'm like, I'm not just jumping to go and meet people in person. But we were like, after a few days where it was like, okay, this is definitely, we're clicking. She was like, oh, we're obviously like vibing or whatever, And so she's like, I'd be willing to hang out if you are. So I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's hang out. So we made plans to hang out on the 14th, the day before my birthday. Mm-hmm. We're gonna go and get some shrimp tacos at World of Beer, like hang out and stuff. We continued to talk. Everything was great. And then suddenly, like, she asked me about the podcast and we were talking about it. So I showed her the cover of our book, and she was like, dude, that's amazing, And I was like, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, like Steven is getting better and better. It's really good. So I like said all this stuff, and she didn't respond. And I was like, I'm waiting. And I was like, all right, whatever. She's busy. And then she just didn't respond. So I wrote back as a joke, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll just get shrimp tacos by myself. And then she didn't respond more. And then she did not respond. And then she just never responded. And then it was like days went by, and I was like, maybe she died. Maybe this is what ghosting is. Maybe she kept that
damn door open.
So I was like, I've had situations.
Nobody ghosts this beautiful mug, everybody. Like, who's ghosting this guy?
I love you. It's weird. Okay, I've been like soft ghosted before, where it was like we didn't like I didn't feel a connection with someone. Kind of like one of those, it fizzles and you just stop talking, and like it happens. This is the first time anyone's ever like actively made plans with me. 100% seemed to be on the same page as me, and then suddenly stop talking to me. Out of nowhere. Like it was funny. Like the last thing she said to me was just how good the cover looked. That was the last thing she said to me. And then it was just nothing from there on, like nothing. So my initial joke was basically like, it's only been a few hours. Ha ha ha. I'm sure you're not really ghosting me. But I was like,
sorry to laugh at your pain.
And I left it I kept that dating app up for like 2 more days. Or like 2 more days, and what I was thinking was maybe the day of the date would come, and she would like message me back like as a joke, like ha ha ha, I gotcha, and I like that would have been funny.
Oh, got me good.
Like yeah, like it would have sucked, but it would have been pretty funny honestly if she did that. Not what happened. She just straight became a ghost or ghosted me. So I deleted it, and I got sad a little. I got a little sad. It made me feel weird. Still don't know what happened. I'm curious. I'm gonna ask you. Okay. We exchanged Instagram handles to like look at pictures and stuff, right? I almost want to message her through Instagram and see if she's alive, but I shouldn't, right?
Don't do it.
Okay,
don't do it, Reg.
I won't do it. I won't do it.
I was gonna call you Reg for some reason.
Reg?
Don't do it, Reg. I don't know. It felt like it was like a quote, but it's not. But it is now. Don't do it. Don't do it, Reg. I just threw it in my head. It was like some sage advice. Some sage advice from some old guy. Don't do it, Reg. Like, just don't do it.
I'm not gonna do it. Don't do it, Reg. It has to be a sure no. I won't do it. I wasn't actually going to unless you said do it, and then I would do it immediately. So
now you sound like what's his name in Malcolm in the Middle. I don't know if you've ever seen the episode of Malcolm in the Middle where Lois accuses what's the older, not Francis,
Dewey, Francis, Malcolm, and Reese.
Reese, yes. Reese like puts potato on his spoon. He's about to flick it, and he's not going to. But then Lois is like, "Don't you flick it?" He's like, "I wasn't going to." And ends up starting this huge thing. But yeah, like basically,
the middle was genius.
Dude, that show's great. I love that.
Have you ever seen the bowling alley episode where they show the multiple timelines of what would happen if Lois took him to the bowling alley and what would happen if Hal took him to the bowling alley?
No, I haven't like rewatched it enough to have that burned in my brain. I'll have to check that out.
So good.
Is it still on Hulu? I think it's still on Hulu.
Oh man, now I'm gonna watch that. I have to watch.
Oh, dude, Tina and I like went through like a mini phase where we watched that in between our last viewing of The Office or something like that.
It's a funny show. It's actually a good show. But that episode is something special because you get to see like the reality of the world of like how different people are in general around the different parents, how just how your world changes based on certain choices, like whether or not I message this person on Instagram, which I'm not going to. It is interesting. I think that's something that I've always been fascinated with, just like the multiple timeline, like knowing aspect. Like what was that movie with Nick Cage? Not knowing, it was the other one. Crap, what was it called? What was it? You don't know what
acted like this.
It was Next.
Oh,
was it Next?
Oh yeah, Next. Where you can see every possible future.
Yeah, where he could see.
He's Doctor Strange, basically.
Yeah, well, exactly. He can see like the potential future that happens with any given moment in time, and like whatever his decision would be. Like, do you ever do that? Do you ever like look ahead too much and worry about that stuff? Okay, well, I guess we should talk about that next episode, because the next episode is about the ghost of comic book future, and that's something that like I'm constantly perplexed by, and like it just drives me crazy.
One thing that's great about the ghost of comic book future though is that he has like 5 or 6 heads. Like we have plenty of ideas, which is good because a lot of people don't have ideas. So that's I think we're in a good spot, but I think you and I are both a little like OCD, or like we get distracted like with just all the projects we have or could have or do, and it like pulls. What's the worst part about it is it pulls your spirit from the current project, which is the worst. Like you suddenly fall in love with something, like you're basically grass is greenering the project. You're like, oh, that project looks really like, and we kind of discussed that in the comics past episode where like you get doubt, and then you get distracted, and it gets tough. It gets tough.
Next week we're going to be talking about the ghost of comic book future, in which Steve and I are both going to pitch 2 ideas, right?
2. And I was actually texting you this week about one of my 2 ideas. I think the title's going to change on it to Masks.
I like it. I like that new idea. I actually, you changing that little thing made me like the idea a lot more, even though I already like the world, but like something about the like tangibility of the idea just like really clicked with the mask thing. And it just works.
And like I said, it creates all those like cool little like caveats or just things you can say, like, you know, how war and like how we just like, you know,
all right. Save it for next week. So, all right. So next week, Steve and I are going to both pitch 2 ideas, and we're going to offer you the opportunity to vote on what we work on next, because I'm going to finish writing this book and I want to start writing something new, and it's going to be whatever you guys vote for. If you're only listening to this on one of the various podcasting apps, we do have a video on YouTube at youtube.com/wehaveissuespodcast. If you want to talk to us on Twitter, we're there at twitter.com/wehaveissuespod. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/group/wehaveissuespodcast. We're all over the place. We made an Instagram. It's the instagram.com/wehaveissuespodcast. We're posting on that now. We posted some videos. It's pretty cool if you want to see various clips and such. Talk to us on any of these places, and we'd love to hear from you. We're so excited to just be doing this in general. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for participating in our questions and our surveys and all of this. Thank you for donating to the GoFundMe. We're going to say a lot more about that, or we're going to say a lot more to the people who are participating in that, and we appreciate you so much. I'm Anthony.
I'm Stevie Wildcard.
Oh, you went back to it. Yes,
I did. Yeah, I said Steven at the open, but I'm going back to the card status.
Card status. Thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 20 of We Have Issues. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yep. What's up? 1 second. Did you see it?
That was right away. That's funny.
I muted it. I don't know if you can still hear me.
No, I couldn't hear you. It's funny though.
Shut up!
I like that shirt.
It's an old Coheed shirt.
Yeah, that's nice.
I don't wear it often because I'm a little too big for it, so my belly comes out sometimes. But guess what, baby? You can't see my belly in the podcast,
dude. I have dude. I have like 4 shirts like that I wear on the podcast that are a little too short, so I can't wear them out because it's just a little too short.
Yeah, like if I'm standing, it's good, but if I do anything, it's too much.
Yep, that's exactly. It's like I have like 3 or 4 shirts like that where I'm like, I really like the way they look. But if I raise my arms at all, I'm like, oh, there's my stomach. All right, cool.
Yeah, it's like, I need like this much, like after.
Yeah, for sure.
I need the 2-inch, 3-inch security. Okay.
Yeah, we all want that extra 3 inches, Steven, for our own security.